Standing on your two knees, baby, tell me what do you need? Stand up on your 2 feet, baby, that's how it's got to be. Standing on your 2 knees, baby, tell me what do you need?
Welcome back to the Muslim Street. You're listening live from WTAN 1340 Clearwater, Florida. This is Laila Abdelaziz with my co-host Malik Aziz. Today we're discussing discussing some very important issues that we thought would wrap up 2011 as we transitioned into 2012. We do have a caller on the line with us today from Illinois. Caller? Hello?
Yes.
Hi, you're live on the Muslim Street.
Okay, thanks. No, I was just, calling in and listening to, the show and everything. I want to maybe, someone to speak about when you guys are talking about, for example, the Republicans' hostility towards Islam or their blatant allowance of Islamophobia in their discourse and everything. Why is it so when it can be argued that, for example, the so-called Muslim agenda, if there is one, on a lot of issues socially will be identical to one of their biggest constituents, and it would be like, the social conservatives,
I'm sorry, I'm not catching what your question is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, I think your show, and particularly in response to the Republican Party, how the extreme right wing of their party a lot of time allows for a lot of openly, Islamophobic discourse and everything. I was wondering if someone could address possibly why this is, when it could be argued, like in theory, that like the Muslim agenda, if there is such thing as a Muslim agenda, is quite conservative socially.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting point to bring up. And actually, in 2000, when President George Bush was elected, he was elected mainly by the Muslim American community. The Muslim American community came out for George Bush, which was very ironic. And there was very interesting research and opinions written about that the Muslim American community is a conservative community, is a community that's going to vote for what we saw as classical conservative ideology. But after George Bush and the invasion of Iraq and the wars in Afghanistan and our foreign policy actions, a lot of the Muslim American community kind of was very thrown back by the Republican Party. I know that the majority of the classical Muslim American communities that I knew previously to 9/11 were registered Republicans.
Exactly.
That was a major shift that we saw post 9/11, that we saw post the invasion of the Iraq, that we saw.
Look at the case of Imam Samuel Arian, who visited the Bush White House during the
early
2000 on a couple of occasions, and of course we saw him his life totally turned upside down by the same Bush administration.
Definitely, but I mean, it's that main belief that it's a very interesting paradigm in that the Muslim American community has a deep connection to the Muslim world, has a deep connection to the Arab world, and they would rather vote liberally in terms of domestic policy than vote conservatively in terms of invading Arab countries. So that's the dynamic going on there. But you are correct. That's a very important and very interesting point to bring up, that most Muslim American communities and families are conservative.
Yeah, and there's a parallel in the black community as we look at the social values of the Republican Party. Is the black community who are conservative on the issue of the right to life, which is more in line with the Republican Party. But it's the Republican Party who has turned their backs on the Black American community, much in a way that they have turned their back on the Muslims and chased them away. I mean, it was a time in this country, the Party of Lincoln. You know, this was the party that Black Americans voted 100% of the time. And then the shift came,
But I mean, especially with the changes within the Tea Party, the development of the Tea Party in itself, I think that it's very safe to say that the conservative Republican Party of today is not the classical conservative party, the Republicans that were around in the early 1900s. And it's we're seeing the evangelical church take over. We're seeing private corporations take over, special interests take over, the military-industrial complex take over. And Muslim America would much rather reconcile that they hold true that abortion is not allowed, but maybe the government shouldn't get involved. But hands down, the government should not invade Muslim countries and should not overthrow and murder and send drones into Pakistan and et cetera. So that's the reconciliation going on there in terms of domestic policy. Thank you for that call. When we came back from break, the next issue that we wanted to discuss was Muslim profiling, actually. The surveillance that we saw emerge in late 2010 publicly emerged, and throughout 2011, the coverage kind of wind down within the end of the year. But in early 2011, we saw FBI informants right and left, up and down, in every Muslim American mosque coming out, FBI informants kind of plying and looking and trying to kind of almost trap normal Muslim American men and make terrorists out of them, terrorist suspects.
It's crazy, and it built a lot of fear in the just the general Muslim population who were just going to the mosque to pray. I had a personal experience with this. I was in the mosque in between prayers, and we were talking about American politics vis-a-vis the Muslim world, and you know everybody knows how I feel about that. And one brother who was there praying didn't agree with my politics. The next day, he called called Homeland Security.
It's a very interesting.
He's in here talking bad about our president. I was like, well, you got to be kidding me. So this paranoia is cutting on both sides. And as we talk about the NYPD surveillance that took place in New York City.
But what is it? The quote, I forgot who said it, but no, Thomas Jefferson said it. Mm-hmm. Dissent is the highest form of patriotism. When you are a conscientious objector to something that you believe is not the reason that you elected your own representative, that's not being unpatriotic. To me, that's the highest form of patriotism.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're supposed to go and sit in the corner and just keep our mouths shut and act like sheep while, you know, a totalitarian government rises up right in Washington, D.C. I don't think so.
Thank you. But as we were saying, I think it's very interesting to note that there's 15,000 registered informants for the FBI.
Wow.
So that's a pretty large number. But to put it in perspective, that's 3 times as many informants as they were 25 years ago.
Wow. So there's an informant coming to the mosque near you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of sad, you know, because it kind of, as these things were coming public, as people were seeing more and more informants within their own local communities, there was a paranoia within the Muslim American community in every city. You know, It's like, oh, who's that non-ethnically Muslim man in the mosque? Is he really Muslim? Let's test out his Islam. And it's kind of this very sad paranoia that's emerged. I think it did wind down towards the end of the year, but I don't think that the informants wind it down.
And in a way, I think the Muslim, the individuals who had in these Muslim mosques after 9/11 kind of, bought into this. They were hosting the FBI at the mosque and serving them exotic food, and thinking that they're their friends. They're not their friends. We're talking about an agency that has a history of surveillance. We are talking about an agency that has a history of assassinations. We are talking about an agency who has a history of creating issues within groups, causing infighting. A long history of that.
This came into the public eye very recently, this past week, with what was going on in New York.
Yeah.
With the what happened was Mayor Bloomberg of New York was hosting a breakfast, an annual interfaith breakfast, and 14 Muslim leaders that were invited to this breakfast. It was a very neutral interfaith banquet, but it was being hosted by the city of New York. And I mean, I'm very proud to talk about this subject because 14 Muslim leaders stood up and said that they would boycott the banquet. Why were they boycotting the banquet? And it was because the Associated Press had released articles in August, and the articles were just piles and piles and piles of proof of detailed undercover officers that were being sent by New York City into the Muslim American community to jot down the political activity of Muslim America, what's going on, what are they plotting, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So this is something that's still happening.
Yeah, and quite interesting, while the surveillance was going on by the NYPD up in New York, I happened to be the Muslim Street up in New York, representing the Muslim Street for 3 weeks in August, forming a collaboration with the quote-unquote 9/11 Mosque, those good people. So I spent the better part of Ramadan with the masjid there and the people there. Very, very good people. There's a police presence at the mosque 24/7, right outside, and the Jummah Salat is like overfull. So this surveillance that took place, I guess I was surveilled too. I mean, I was there for 3 weeks, going in and out of that mosque probably 3 or 4 times a day. I had iftar there, which is the breaking of the fast of Ramadan each night. My hotel was just on the other side of Ground Zero. Had several meetings at the quote-unquote mosque, the 9/11 mosque headquarters, meeting with them. So, but this, again, this illegal surveillance and wiretapping, and according to the Arab American Association in New York, even Muslim student associations are being tagged. And this is just unfortunate, and we cannot tolerate this.
I mean, it's unfortunate and it's intolerable. I completely agree. But at the same time, I think that the FBI will be very happy to know that these are wasted efforts and they're not really, they're spending money on a lost cause. Because the Muslim American community that I know, that I am a very large and important, I participate in this community, I know this community, they're doing great work for all Americans. They're doing civic engagement work, they're doing interfaith work, they're doing community service. There's to me, it's a waste of money on the end
it's a
of
waste.
FBI.
It's a waste of time. But then the flip side to that is we have to look at the agenda of the government and how the hand is played here. And again, history will help us out here. The FBI, particularly the New York Police Department, in the assassination of Malcolm X in the mid-1960s, the FBI thoroughly infiltrated not only Malcolm's organizations, both Muslim Mosque Incorporated, after he left the Nation of Islam, but also the Organization of African American Unity. They had also infiltrated with highly placed agents, the Nation of Islam, and particularly a man by the name of John Ali, who served as the National Secretary in the Nation of Islam. And it was John Ali, who Malcolm said was his sworn enemy, who created the infighting and helped create the environment that led to the break in the organizations and eventually to the atmosphere of the assassination. So we have to look at, the aim of the FBI as they get involved. What are their goals and objectives in the Muslim community? I will tell you this, that they do not want to see a unified Muslim community. And we'll talk about that as we move into the latter segments.
Definitely. We're going to, again, thank you. You're listening to The Muslim Street. We're going to take a very quick commercial break. Please stay tuned as we wrap up the show on this first day of 2012.